Here we go. Hi, Hyun.
Okay. Hello, Jason.
So you are in the class and you wrote in your email, I think I'll just say it here. When I asked to briefly describe your primary goal, you said that you're a student studying game visual effects, right?
Mhm.
And that you'd like to learn the skills to develop your own style. And after graduating, you're looking to get jobs abroad. You're looking at the United States?
Yeah, for my primary goal is to get jobs in United States. Yes.
Perfect. Cool. Okay, so you want to have like sort of your own defined style, and when you
Mm.
graduate, get a job out here somewhere. How soon till you graduate?
Maybe I think in 2 years. Like,
Okay, that's plenty of
yeah.
time.
Hmm.
It's plenty of time. If you study hard and work hard, you should be just fine. Let's see where your portfolio is at today,
Okay.
and we'll kind of go from there. All right. Okay. Nice. Kind of just watch this through once or twice. I'll give some feels. All right. So my sense is that
Hmm.
a lot of your work needs to feel more grounded to a believable world. And that doesn't mean that it needs to be photorealistic or super realistic in any way. It just means that right now, the way things are moving, I can
Hmm.
I can say, "Oh, that's a particle." Like I know it's a particle because of how it moves and how it's composed.
Hmm.
So, I think it's great that you've got like a big variety of things already. And now I would focus time on polishing what you have. So let's see. For instance, on this first one, this missile, right?
Yes.
So you've got this spear that sort of just appears, right?
Yep.
So instead of just having the spear appear, maybe there's some magic that forms around it to like bring it
From the
into
beginning,
existence. What's that?
when it starts to appear, like
Yeah.
there needs to be more anticipation or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because right now it's just like, oh, there's a particle spear, and
Uh,
I feel like, oh, sorry, I missed this. Okay, there we go. And so I feel like it just sort of starts appearing. And then the water droplets that come off of it don't
mhm.
really make a lot of sense to me. I don't know where they're coming from. I don't know what they're connected to. Like, they just sort of appear and they just sort of move like a particle with a random velocity. And so
Mhm.
there's a physical spear that's putting off water droplets. I'm like, so I guess it's wet or something. But if
Uh-huh.
you want it to feel like magical water, you're going to need something that feels watery in the spear for those droplets to come off of, or some kind of splash that's coming back off of the spear, like an element that's splashing backwards as the spear is going forward. Maybe it's splashing uh, backwards as it goes. And then the water droplets themselves sort of just float and then disappear, and they don't
Mm.
move like water would move.
So make it more like believable through more connection with the target and the spear.
Yeah, like the spear I'm seeing now, it has the wind coming off of it. That's a great element. It has like wispy wind kind of coming off of it,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't really have a story of why it's watery.
Uh,
And then the droplets themselves don't move like water. They kind of move in random directions. Like
mm-hmm.
some of them move forward, some of them move backwards. They just feel like random particles sort of spawning, and not
Mm.
like um, not like believable water. Now again, it's not about rendering it to look just like real water, but it needs to have the characteristics of water enough so that the viewer believes what it is.
Mm,
Like maybe they splash, or maybe they have a little bit of a dissolve, so they like break apart like globs of water, that kind of thing. And then on the impact itself, these cards here feel very static. Like they have a decent dissolve, but the problem with them is that I can see each card sort of just sliding away. And you need to hide that. So you need to make it feel like an actual splash is happening. Like it's
uh,
actually water hitting and then spraying outward. And so having these shapes that are sort of non-directional, it's like a flat shape that could be rotated any direction. You need
mm,
something that sprays in the direction that it's headed, and then maybe randomize a few different options so that it sprays outward. We do this in the class with the electricity.
mm,
We just have a much sharper material, much sharper texture in there. But you could do the same thing with the goo. Well, even the goo lesson, right? Like the goo also has like more of a directional spray to it. And so you
mm,
could study that and learn how we're doing that there to get some spray that feels like it's moving in a direction versus right now it's sort of camera facing and just sliding along.
mm. So like use more kind of roundish meshes so it can be more
Yeah,
3D.
that's one way to do it. You could also do it with cards,
Mm,
um, velocity aligned cards that could work. Something like that.
mm,
Yeah. So I like the impact. I think it's nice and like sharp and like punchy. You could probably smooth out the frames on that. Is that a flip book?
yeah, it is like maybe two or three slides flipbook. Maybe I can add some more slides to that.
Yeah, it's just a little bit choppy. I love the shapes. The shapes are great, but
Mm-hmm.
it either scale it over its lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you did a little bit of scaling, which is good. Like just that little bit of scale up helps a lot.
Mm,
But then it's like it gets choppy. Like the frame rate on the impact is different from the frame rate on the rest of it.
mm,
Oh yeah, like the second one you did is actually more believable glob of water. That's pretty fun.
this one.
Yeah, I just think it suffers from frame rate issues. Like it's
Uh,
too low of a frame rate. Like it's just like bleh, and then it's on the screen for like 2 frames and then it's gone on that impact.
mm. So some
And
more frames and kind of slow down a little bit, maybe.
yeah, like let us see that really interesting dissolve or that really interesting splash. Make it satisfying.
Uh,
And on the impact, this impact is very toned down. So this impact that you did is really good. It's like a big starburst and like feels really nice and has that ring around the outside that's nice too. But then this next one, it's just a little circle and no sense of punch.
uh,
So adding some more elements in there to get that to read will be good. Okay. Questions so far?
alright. No, I'm just listening to your advices.
Cool. All right. So on this one, let's see which one I want to look at next. On this one, I feel like the shape is a difficult shape for a missile.
Uh-huh.
Tell me about what this is meant to be, and maybe I can help from there.
It was meant to be a sphere, like a lens. Yeah, but I think it needs what you said for the first one. I think it needs more story, so I
Yeah.
can work on that for it.
Yeah, I think for sure, same feedback that it just appears. I think also the actual texture, the actual image could use
Uh,
some work because it's not clear to me what it is because it has
uh,
a larger base right here. It almost feels like a statue, like
mm-hmm,
a statue that's tipped over, or like a building that's tipped over, almost like the Eiffel Tower or something. And I think this wide base down here takes away from how it feels fast and aerodynamic.
mm,
Like having it flare out at the bottom like that doesn't feel like something that I would be throwing at somebody unless you wanted to theme it like you were throwing a building at somebody or a trophy at somebody, which could be kind of fun. But if you were doing that, it would kind of be a different set of things to consider. Like it's probably more important that it's a 3D object or that it is maybe spinning or something, or that the impact is it breaking, something like
mm-hmm.
that. Like in League of Legends, there's a Mundo skin that he throws a trophy,
Yeah,
right? And so
yeah, yeah.
it can work, it can be awesome. It's just you have to plan accordingly. Like either make it a sleek, streamlined spear
Mm-hmm.
that feels like it was meant to be thrown, or if it's something that's not meant to be thrown, go ahead and play with that and have fun with that and make it fun, like comical.
All right.
So yeah, I think once it gets going, it gets that kind of cool transition. But again, the transition just kind of pops on, right?
Mm,
It just goes from that one shape to a different shape, and I don't really know why or what happened that made it start going faster.
mm,
And so some build up or some story of like things gathering together, twirling around, or maybe lines coming off until it gets faster and faster. That could be really interesting. I think also for each of these, this is general feedback. I think
uh-huh.
these two spheres could be further apart,
Uh,
just a bit further
so it
apart.
can travel more.
What's that?
So it can the traveling of the effect can be seen more clear.
Exactly. Because right now it's over so quickly that
Uh,
you don't get a lot of time to really see what's going on. And I think you'll
uh-huh.
have a lot more fun staging it out when they have more space,
Okay.
for sure. I really think so.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then on the impact, it has like green and red, and I don't know how I feel about that because originally it was kind of yellowish orange. It's like this orangish color, and then when it hits, it's red and green.
Ah, I
And
think that's
so,
a material mistake. I think.
yeah, I think you just need to unify your colors and get your color theming better.
uh,
I think this impact is nice and simple. It's nice and satisfying. It just has the same issue, obviously, because it's really low frame rate flipbook
mm,
on that plus sign on that cross sign. I actually really like what you're doing with the green part. I think the green part has good shapes. I think it has good timing. I think
yeah.
it's very satisfying. Um, yeah, it's pretty successful.
Mm,
Maybe just getting that frame rate fixed and that plus sign will help a few of these.
mm,
Okay, this one I don't I don't mind it too much. I feel like the problem I'm running into is that every one of these is identical
uh,
and very noticeable. So it's okay if it's identical if it's a very simple shape. Like just a simple little line or a simple little diamond or something like that. But when you
mm,
have a more complex shape with the 3 points on the back of it, it
mm,
becomes a little weird when you see that exact same shape over and over and over again.
uh,
Does that make sense? Because then the
so,
brain says, wait, it's repeating the same exact thing. But actually, simpler shapes, it's okay if it's the same.
mm,
Usually with the brain, we don't notice it as much. We assume that they're different. So maybe doing randomized little slight variations on that would be really good. Also, this is a common thing. I can tell that it's stretched because the glow on the front is longer than the glow on the sides. So it's like it's a
Uh,
stretched image.
for
I
the texture, you mean?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And so figure out a way that the front. I think it's okay to have a bit of glow coming in front of the front, but
uh,
typically what you want to do is have the leading edge be sharper and
uh,
not blurry. You don't want a lot of blur on the front of it because that's like it's cutting through at the front, right? And
mm,
so the fuzzy parts are at the back where it's blurring backwards typically. It'll make it feel faster and it'll make it feel more streamlined. Yeah.
all right.
So this one's going. Let's see that again. I think the timing on these sparks could be a little better. Right now, they're very even timing. The way that they
Uh,
sort of float out, you know.
I'll be more random numbers.
Yeah, I think both. So both random, but also slow them down more. Like you
Uh,
could have them start faster and then have more drag, so they slow down faster.
mhm,
So they're like, and maybe add some stretch by velocity, so they stretch out at the beginning, and then
mhm,
they get shorter as they slow down. So that'll make it
mm,
feel like better motion blur. You know what I'm saying?
okay.
Yeah, like stretch in there. And then on the muzzle flash, I think the muzzle flash is pretty good. The only difference I would recommend is adding another element that sits in the middle of all of these. Because what right now it's getting a gap, like this dark gap here in between
Uh,
the two muzzle flashes. And so
mhm,
there's no consistent hotspot. And maybe it's just like a sphere or like a spiky texture that like, or even the same texture even that just stays in one place that grows in and out like really
uh,
quickly.
like something like a core or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like the core of that hotspot.
Mm,
Because right now it's kind of just jumping around and I don't know that I like that. And now if this was on a character that was like moving its fist around or something like that, I think it would be
mm,
okay. But where it feels like it's coming from one single thing, I think it'd be worthwhile to fill that in. Also,
mm,
again, colors on this one. You've got yellow here and then red here, and there's nothing really connecting them together.
mm,
So maybe these start yellow and they turn red over time or something like that. But right now they're starting red and staying red. And
like
it
too
feels disconnected.
awkward.
Yeah, it's just the two colors need a reason to live together, right? Like you can't
Uh,
just say, I'm going to put one color on this particle and a different color on that particle, and it's just going to work. You need to think in your mind, why is it that color? And
mm,
what makes it change color? And, is it yellow when it's hot and then it cools off to red? Or maybe it's red when it's hot and cools off to yellow. I don't know. But try different things and play around with that.
okay.
I think also this is just very flat red in general. So you could even have like maybe it's white when it's super hot, and then there's yellow in the middle, and then red on the tail, and that'll
More
help.
color
Yeah,
variations.
yeah.
Mm,
Like just maybe don't change this whole white core, but maybe just touches of yellow and things like that will go a long way. And the tip is if you want to change the color over time, don't put too
mhm,
much saturation inside the texture in this red. If you want it to be able to also turn yellow at the beginning, just like a little bit of red and a little bit of yellow, and then you can add more saturation in the engine over its lifetime.
mm,
Yeah. Okay.
okay.
Cool. Red magic. So red is always difficult
Mm-hmm.
because it's probably the most difficult color to keep it pure. I think something you have to do with red, if you want it to feel like a nice, vibrant red, especially if it's slightly transparent. Well,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I guess then there's two options. If you want a transparent red to feel good, you need to put something behind it that's like a darker red or dark brown or something for the red to pop out on top of it, or
Mm-hmm.
just make the red solid and opaque. The trouble I'm having here is that the red doesn't feel super vibrant. It feels very subtle, especially like this subtle glowiness on here where it's kind of
Mm-hmm.
transparent. It kind of washes out, right? You'll notice on characters where, let's see, in League of Legends, um, let's see if I can find this one. On, yeah, well, this is perfect. Open image, a new tab. Okay, so here we go. So here's like a red visual effects kit on a very
Mm-hmm.
similar background, right? Notice that in order to get the reds to really pop, we have to like put dark nearby for the red to show up. And even then, it kind of they kind of have like touches of orange in here as well, which is also nice because it adds color depth to it.
Mm.
So that's a good
So
thing.
it's more, it needs more contrast.
Yeah, I think so. I think for the red to pop, I mean, because they even get it here, right, where the red is really faint and it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't feel threatening or menacing or really strong much in that situation. So yeah, or they just have like straight up orange.
Mm.
And when the red is really opaque, that's when it really shows up.
Oh.
So for yours, I think if you want a more vibrant red, maybe putting some dark behind it,
Mm-hmm.
um, maybe some red inside of it. If you just go with like just a diffuse or like a solid red color that's not really translucent much, you can always do that technique to really push it and put maybe darker shadow shapes in there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want it to feel like blood, then you really need to add highlights. And we go over that in the goo section about how to get a good sense of like a liquid with the highlight and shadow shape and all that in
Mm-hmm.
there that you can pull from. Because yeah, like this here to me, it doesn't feel super magical. It doesn't feel very special. It's just kind of a red swirl. I think this could be one really good element of an effect, but it's only a beginning. It's not really
Wow.
working as a whole effect right now. It's just one piece. I don't know if that's one emitter that you used or not, but yeah, adding
Okay.
other elements that swirl out further and like, maybe like a dark fuzz around behind the ball to make it feel like it's like dark magic or something, or maybe even changing the material on the ball during that time to have some kind of a like a
Mm-hmm.
shimmer or like turn the color of it darker red or something. Could all be
Mm.
really interesting.
More elements.
Yeah, I think these splashes are slightly more successful than the water splashes from earlier, simply
Mm.
because they don't move as far. So if you're going to have something splash in a more flat card, it's
Mm.
good to not translate it really far. Like kind of keep it maybe a little bit of translation, and you're doing that. You're keeping it close by, and it just kind of dissolves more or less in place, and that feels
Mm.
nice. I think some other element in here that maybe does come out further, or maybe again, maybe if the material of this ball changed a little bit to support that stuff coming off of it, I think it would help tell a better story in there too.
Mm,
So we're really running low on time, unfortunately. I
yes.
won't be able to get through your whole portfolio, but any other questions that you have for me before we end?
Uh, I got a question to ask about getting jobs abroad, like how to get jobs.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's one I get all the time. So the key is to put yourself in a good position where you can qualify for, I forget the type of visa in the United States, but it's basically like an exceptional talent visa where you're basically arguing to the government, hey, we need to bring this person over from another country because it's very rare to find people this good in our own country. And they
Mm,
look for things like, have they published their work in anything? Have they won any notable competitions in their field? Or have they like made it into like a conference or like a big show that is internationally renowned, where it's like they're actually achieving things at the world scale and being really impressive. So there's lots of opportunities with that. You can, enter the competitions on realtimevfx.com. And like
mm,
if you win some of those competitions, you can note that like that's an international competition.
mm.
That helps your chances. Having a college degree really helps your chances as well because they look at that. And anything you can do to sort of like make yourself look important to the United States government is going to help your case.
That's
If
the like visa side of the problem.
That's always the biggest hangup because we find talented people all the time, but it's
Uh,
like, but are they going to have trouble with a visa?
uh,
And visa and language are typically the two biggest challenges once we know somebody is very talented. Yeah.
mm,
So you've got the language, that's great. But then the visa part is probably the thing to think about a lot. You can look online. There's a lot of good advice online of how to prepare yourself to qualify for that kind of visa and the different types of visas you're going to need to go for.
mm. All right.
All right.
Yep.
Very cool. Okay. Well, it's been awesome chatting with you, Hoon.
Uh-huh.
And
It
I
was
will
really
catch,
great.
yeah, I will catch you later.
Okay.
All
Thank you
right.
very much.
Yep. Bye.
See you in the class.
See ya.